Sports Minister Nathi Mthethwa has exercised his powers in terms of Section 13 of the National Sports and Recreation Act and has stripped CSA of their national recognition as the governing body of cricket in the country. Now, this comes after the Members' Council voted not to implement a memorandum of incorporation, which would have meant having more independent directors within the organization. And I'm joined now by Special Advisor to the Sports Minister, Walter Mokoena, as well as CSA Interim Board Member Judith February. Walter and Judith, thank you so much for joining me this evening. Walter, let's start with you. I mean, we do know that factionally dissolving Cricket South Africa was a last resort for Minister Mthethwa. Can you take us through the thought process which forced him to take such drastic measures?
Thanks, Dumi, and good evening to the viewers. Well, it's a very painful period in South African sport, particularly cricket. But as you would recall, Dumi, that this is it's a decision that Minister didn't take very lightly. There have been ongoing discussions over the last close to almost 15 to 16 months. You remember there was a huge outcry to the management based on how the sport of cricket was being governed. And the minister took certain steps. And the first step was that he allowed SASCOC, the macro body of sport, to be involved in trying to find a resolution, to the challenges that were engulfing the sport of cricket. And once it became clear that SASCOC were unable, to deal with these matters, they took the matter back to Minister Mthethwa. And you would recall that at the time, in fact, I think for context, it's important to mention that at the time that Minister assumed this portfolio in June of 2019, subsequent to that, he was seized with two major challenges. One was Cricket South Africa, and the next one was SASCOC itself. So it proved that SASCOC, they themselves, because they were in need of assistance, facing their own governance issues. And they brought the matter back to the minister, and the minister started handling the matter. And the first was to get the Nicholson recommendations on proper governance that were fully implemented, that were partially implemented, rather, to be fully implemented. And to that end, he appointed the interim board of Cricket South Africa after the previous board, left office. So that was a clear indication that the minister, from the word go, had every intention of finding an amicable solution to the sport, to the challenges that were facing the sport of cricket. First, using the instruments before him, that was SASCOC itself, to find a way forward through SASCOC and Cricket South Africa. When that failed, the interim board was then given a mandate, a 9-point plan mandate, to execute on it in association with the Members' Council. And we thought that there was a lot of progress that was being made at the time. But unfortunately, at the end, when it was really a point of getting it over the line, then again, the challenges emerged. So that's really, in a nutshell, how we got to where we are. But Minister didn't take this decision very lightly. It's been in fact, he's been incredibly patient. And most people saying he was taking long, he should act, use his powers. But Minister not wanting to go straight into that decision-making process, invoking the Act. He wanted to make sure that the sport of cricket does not suffer.
All right, just Judith, you from your side hearing Walter saying that, the minister was patient with the organization. Firstly, can you give us some insight to the reaction of the board when they initially heard the news about the minister's decision? And do you agree with Walter saying that the minister was patient enough?
Thank you. Good evening. I think the minister has been extremely patient. He's also been very cautious about the way in which he has intervened, I think. When he gave this interim board its 9-point mandate, he was very clear to give it to us and then allow us to simply continue with our work and to get on with the business of particularly implementing the Nicholson report, which means a majority independent board. That is a well-established principle of corporate governance. when we received, and there's been, Mr. Mokoena has detailed some of what has happened so far, but there have been many meetings between the Members' Council. We formed 3-a-side working groups where we attempted to get SASCOC involved, and as you've mentioned, SASCOC withdrew from that process, and there have been many iterations of this memorandum of incorporation. I think we were saddened when we received the Minister's letter in the early hours of this morning, because it really didn't have to be this way. This is one of those South African self-inflicted wounds where institutions flail because individuals put self-preservation, a minority of individuals, and I think in the Minister's letter he called them irrational and intractable. And I can say that the interim board, having dealt with the Members' Council, the small vocal minority, is making it extremely difficult for the other members on the council to actually do what's in the best interests of cricket. But I think the point to be made is if one's working from the point of self-preservation, then it becomes very difficult to see the wood for the trees. So it's a sad day for cricket. It's a sad day for all of us who love the game. And South Africa should be taking its place at the top table of international cricket. But we're squabbling amongst ourselves about governance. It's very disappointing.
I mean, unfortunately, we are running out of time. But Walter, from your side, then what happens next? Now that the announcement is made, what does the minister do from here on?
Well, the directives will be gazetted in the next couple of days, as is the process. So insofar as the minister is concerned, all the process from his side are currently taking place. And I think in due course, once it's been published in the government gazette, everybody will be able to see exactly, what are the details that pertained in the gazette.
Do you think there's still room to salvage some kind of agreement that would allow Cricket South Africa to remain in charge?
Well, I mean, as you would have noticed, that minister waited until the very last moment. It is in fact, we must actually state that there are very good leaders within the Members' Council who have been in favor for these reforms, but unfortunately there are some minority within the Members' Council that voted to block these reforms. And I do think that as Minister has demonstrated without any doubt that he is a very reasonable person, and that should they come back to him with a proposal that seeks to set everything back on course in terms of these reforms. Okay. I'm sure Minister will be in a position to listen to them and have an engagement, but we can't preempt that position. For now, what we know is what has happened, and the process is unfolding. We will wait for Cricket South Africa and Members' Council at the time of their choosing to come back and make presentations. But it's clear that the process will be starting on a different platform compared to where things have been all along.
I mean, Judith, just before we let you go, do you think from your side there's still room to compromise between the interim board and the Members' Council? Also, there's rumors that perhaps the Members' Council is looking to interdict the minister's decision. Have you heard anything along those lines?
Well, we haven't heard anything along those lines. And Cricket South Africa is one organization. So, one has to think about the cost of litigation if the Members' Council is going to do this. But I'm not going to concentrate on what the Members' Council may or may not do. What I can say is that this board has always been open to a conversation. We have put on the table an expedited process in terms of Section 60 of the Companies Act, which means that one doesn't have to reconvene a special general meeting in person, but it can be done by round robin and in writing. The Members' Council has an opportunity to retrieve the situation. We are at 2 minutes to midnight. We are on the brink of a crisis, a self-inflicted crisis, and the minority of the Members' Council has that opportunity. I think they shouldn't probably be tempting fate in the way that they are by thinking the minister might not follow through with gazetting his actions. while I can't speak on behalf of the Minister, I do think that for every hour that we waste here, we are putting cricket deeper and deeper into crisis. We've already had letters from some sponsors who are expressing concerns, but also I think the players and fans and those who work in cricket across the country, ground staff, all kinds of staff whose livelihoods are at risk. So we need to act responsibly in the best interests of the company and in the best interests of our country, because cricket is a national good.
Well, Special Advisor to Sports Minister Walter Mkwena, as well as CSA Interim Board Member Judith February, thank you very much for joining me this evening, just discussing what is happening with regards to Cricket South Africa and the Sports Minister stripping CSA of their national recognition. We'll definitely keep you up to date with what's happening with regards to this story. Well, with that said, it is